This is why you're stuck in life. You know what's painful. It's not falling behind. It's realizing you've been standing still while life kept moving. So many people wake up every day, breathe, eat, and work. But deep down, they're not living. They're surviving. That's what being stuck feels like. You can feel the pull in your chest, that whisper that says, there's more, but your feet just won't move. And the worst part is, it's not because you're lazy or broken. It's because somewhere along the line, you accepted average as your ceiling. You stopped believing in movement. You stopped asking questions. You stopped stretching your mind. And when you stop growing, you start dying slowly. Myles Munroe once said, the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but a life without purpose. That's what this speech is about. Not death, but the silent trap of existing without evolving. You're stuck because you confuse comfort with peace. There's a difference. Comfort is the enemy of progress. Peace comes when you're aligned with your purpose. But comfort comes when you've given up chasing it. And the world rewards comfort. It tells you to settle, to be practical, to stop dreaming. But the truth is, practicality is often the language of fear. You're stuck because you're protecting a version of yourself that no longer exists. You keep trying to fix the old instead of building the new. You hold on to expired friendships, expired beliefs, expired habits, and then wonder why your life smells like stagnation. You can't step into the next chapter if you keep rereading the last one. You're stuck because you're waiting for motivation, when what you need is discipline. Motivation is like a spark, it fades. Discipline is like fire, it sustains. Stop saying, I'll do it when I feel ready. You'll never feel ready. You move and readiness catches up later. That's how you grow. You're stuck because you're addicted to approval. Every decision you make is filtered through someone else's opinion. But here's the truth. People who can't see your vision will always call your growth rebellion. You don't need permission to become what you were designed to be. You're stuck because you confuse movement with progress. You're busy but not effective. You talk about plans but never execute. You consume endless motivation, yet your hands remain idle. It's not how much you do. It's what you do that counts. You're stuck because you don't manage your thoughts. Your life will always move in the direction of your most dominant thought. If you think small, you'll live small. If you believe it's too late, it will be. Your mindset is the steering wheel of your destiny. You're stuck because you're afraid to start over. But hear me, starting over is not failure, it's clarity. It's proof that you've learned. Some of you are praying for change, but rejecting the very discomfort that would bring it. Nothing grows in the comfort zone, not even faith. And you're stuck because you've mistaken waiting for timing. You tell yourself, I'm waiting for the right time. No, you're waiting for the perfect conditions that will never come. The time isn't when it's easy. It's when you're ready to trust yourself. You want to get unstuck. Change how you see yourself. You're not a victim of your environment. You're the architect of it. Stop saying life is happening to me and start saying life is responding to me. You want to move forward. Stop holding yourself hostage to what didn't work. That business, that relationship, that mistake, it's done. Extract the lesson and move. The longer you dwell on what went wrong, the more you empower it to hold you. You want to grow? Surround yourself with people who challenge your limits, not those who justify them. Your environment shapes your expectations, and your expectations shape your reality. And remember this, you can't become new if you keep defending the old. Transformation requires surrender. The surrender of your ego, your excuses, your fears. So if you feel stuck today, good. That means your spirit is resisting stagnation. It means something inside you still believes there's more. That feeling of frustration, it's your soul's alarm clock telling you to wake up. Because being stuck is not a sign that you're finished. It's a signal that it's time to shift. It's not punishment, it's preparation. It's life saying, you're ready for the next level, but you can't carry old weight into new seasons. So move. Even if it's small, even if it's slow, move. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from doing. And every small step will lead you to momentum. Every moment of courage will break another chain. This is why you're stuck. Because you haven't decided that enough is enough. The moment you decide that your potential is worth more than your excuses, you'll rise. You'll realize the cage wasn't locked. It was just familiar. And once you see that, You'll never stay still again. So many people confuse being stuck with being finished. They think that when progress slows down, life has turned against them, that maybe they're cursed or unlucky. But being stuck is not a sign that you failed. It's a sign that life is demanding more of you. It's the universe's way of saying, you've outgrown this level and you can't stay here anymore. You see, growth doesn't always feel like expansion. Sometimes it feels like pressure, confusion, or silence. Sometimes it feels like you're going nowhere when, in truth, you're being pushed to evolve into a better version of yourself. Think about a seed. When it's planted in the soil, it disappears beneath the ground. It's buried in darkness. From the outside, it looks dead, forgotten, useless. But underneath that soil, something powerful is happening. Roots are forming, structure is building, life is being prepared. The seed can't bloom until it's broken. That's what being stuck often feels like. It's not death, it's development. You're not buried, you're being planted. In daily life, when people feel stuck in their jobs, relationships, or purpose, they think something is wrong with them. They say, I don't know what's next, or I feel lost. But maybe the reason you feel lost is because you've already conquered the level you're standing on. When a video game player stays too long on the same stage, the game feels boring, repetitive, meaningless. It's not the player's fault. It's the sign that it's time to move to the next level. Life works the same way. The feeling of being stuck is often an invitation to upgrade. Sometimes growth stops not because of lack of opportunity, but because of lack of curiosity. You've stopped asking questions. You've stopped stretching yourself. Maybe you've become so comfortable with the familiar that you no longer challenge your own limits. The truth is, stagnation feels safe, but it's dangerous. It slowly drains your potential, one ordinary day at a time. When you stop growing, you start decaying, not physically, but mentally and spiritually. Remember the butterfly. Before it flies, it must fight its way out of the cocoon. If you try to help it by cutting the cocoon open, it will die, because the struggle is what gives its wings strength. Your stuck season is your cocoon. It's the tension that strengthens your character. Without that pressure, you'd never develop the endurance to handle your next breakthrough. Every successful person has gone through a season of stillness, a period where nothing seemed to move. Maybe you've been working hard, showing up every day, and still not seeing results. Maybe you've been praying, studying, planning, but nothing seems to shift. Don't misinterpret that delay. It's not rejection, it's refinement. Gold has to go through fire before it shines. The same heat that destroys straw purifies gold. That's why being stuck doesn't mean you're finished. It means you're being refined for something greater. Look at a child learning to walk. They fall again and again, and yet no one calls that failure. We call it progress. Why? Because we know that falling is part of learning balance. In the same way, when life knocks you down or holds you in place, it's not punishing you, it's training you. Growth hides in repetition. Progress hides in frustration, and wisdom hides in waiting. If you feel like you've been stuck in the same routine, ask yourself, what lesson am I avoiding? Because every season of stagnation carries a message. Maybe you've been holding on to something that no longer fits your next chapter. Maybe you're surrounded by people who drain you instead of develop you. Maybe you've been chasing approval instead of purpose. Life will keep you stuck until you decide to confront what's keeping you small. Being stuck is not a dead end, it's a mirror. It reflects what you've been ignoring. It forces you to slow down long enough to see what you've been pretending not to notice. Many people rush from one thing to another, never stopping to evaluate their direction. Being stuck gives you that pause. It's uncomfortable, but necessary. Growth doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes in silence. When you hit that wall, don't panic, sit with it. Ask yourself what needs to change inside you. Because sometimes what's blocking your progress isn't outside circumstances. It's your mindset. You might be praying for a door to open while holding the very key that unlocks it. You might be asking for change while clinging to what's familiar. Growth requires release. You cannot step into new beginnings while holding the hand of the past. A man once worked at the same company for 10 years, doing the same tasks every day. He complained that his life never moved, that he was stuck. But when someone asked him what new skills he'd learned in those 10 years, he had no answer. The truth was, he hadn't worked 10 years of growth. He had repeated 1 year of experience 10 times. That's how most people live. They keep repeating old patterns, expecting new results. Being stuck is a sign that you've reached the limit of your current thinking. You need new thoughts to create new possibilities. Growth is not a moment, it's a decision repeated daily. It's waking up and saying, I refuse to stay the same. Even when you don't see results, keep moving. The smallest step forward is still progress. A river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence. Your persistence will eventually break your walls. Don't let the feeling of stagnation trick you into giving up. Remember, a plane uses the most fuel during takeoff. That resistance you feel right now may be the very force lifting you higher. Every delay, every silence, every stuck moment, it's shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable of carrying what's next. So when you feel stuck, don't curse the process. Recognize it. Because that's the signal that you've outgrown your current level. Your potential is bigger than your comfort zone. Your vision is too wide for your old mindset. And when you finally understand that being stuck isn't the end, but the invitation to grow, that's when the breakthrough begins within you. Every great dream begins in discomfort, yet most people spend their lives trying to avoid it. They crave ease, they chase convenience, they worship the familiar. But comfort is a silent killer. It doesn't destroy you suddenly, it numbs you slowly. It makes you satisfied with less, content with average, and blind to what you could become. It whispers, you're fine where you are, while your purpose screams, you're made for more. That's the trap. The comfort zone feels like safety, but it's really a cage built by fear. Comfort is sweet, but dangerous. It makes you feel good today, while stealing your tomorrow. People say they want success, but success lives in the land of discomfort. If you want to grow, you must be willing to be stretched. If you want to lead, you must be willing to be misunderstood. If you want to fulfill your purpose, you must be willing to leave the place where you feel safe. Purpose doesn't live in the chair of comfort. It waits at the edge of courage. Think about the gym. When you lift weights, it's the resistance that builds your muscle. If you only lift what's easy, you'll never grow stronger. The same rule applies to life. Growth demands resistance. Purpose demands pressure. No one builds strength sitting still. Every push, every struggle, every moment of discomfort is shaping you into someone capable of carrying greatness. The pain you feel when stretching beyond your limits is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're expanding. Most people never fail in life because of lack of talent or opportunity. They fail because they choose comfort over calling. They stay in jobs that drain their spirit because they fear uncertainty. They remain in relationships that have expired because they fear loneliness. They silence their dreams because they fear judgment. Comfort convinces them that surviving is safer than thriving. But you can't live a life of purpose while protecting your comfort zone. They cannot coexist. Think about an eagle. When its young refuse to leave the nest, the mother eagle begins to remove the soft feathers and grass, leaving behind sharp thorns. She does this not to hurt them, but to force them to fly. Because if they don't feel discomfort, they'll never discover their wings. Life works the same way. Sometimes, when things start getting uncomfortable, it's not punishment, it's preparation. The discomfort is pushing you to grow, to move, to evolve. A person who seeks comfort will never understand the one who seeks purpose. Comfort asks, what is easy? Purpose asks, what is necessary? Comfort wants rest, purpose demands sacrifice. Comfort wants applause, purpose craves alignment. The greatest men and women didn't choose the easy path. They chose the path that challenged them, stretched them, and forced them to become who they were meant to be. Daily life is full of moments where you must choose between comfort and purpose. Waking up early to chase your dream or hitting the snooze button, that's a choice. Speaking your truth when it's inconvenient or staying silent to fit in, that's a choice. Saving money for your vision or spending it to impress others, that's a choice. Comfort will always give you an excuse, but purpose will always give you a reason. Many people wait until discomfort finds them through loss or failure before they decide to move. They wait until their situation becomes unbearable before they finally act. But wise people don't wait for pain to push them. They let purpose pull them. They understand that growth requires voluntary discomfort. You can't change your life while clinging to the habits that built your current one. You must step into the unfamiliar. You must risk. You must stretch. Comfort creates illusion. The illusion that you're okay when you're actually drifting. You might have money, but no meaning. You might have followers, but no fulfillment. You might have peace, but no progress. Comfort gives you a fake sense of satisfaction while quietly stealing your passion. And one day you look back and realize that you didn't lose your purpose in one big moment. You lost it in small daily compromises where you chose easy over essential. Purpose is born in the moments you say yes when it would be easier to say no. It's born when you choose to stand when others sit. It's born when you decide that mediocrity is too expensive a price for peace of mind. People who live with purpose don't chase happiness, they chase meaning. Happiness comes and goes, but purpose endures even when it hurts. When you start pursuing your purpose, discomfort becomes your teacher. It shows you where you've been too soft, too afraid, too dependent. It pushes you to grow up, to take responsibility, to trust yourself. Comfort makes you feel good now, but purpose makes you become good forever. So every time life puts you in a tough position, ask yourself, is this pain breaking me or building me? Because more often than not, it's building you. Think about the bamboo tree. After it's planted, it takes years before anything appears above the ground. During that time, it's growing roots deep beneath the surface. Then suddenly, in a matter of weeks, it shoots up feet after feet into the sky. That's how purpose works. It takes time in the unseen, in the uncomfortable, in the silence. That's where you build the strength for your season of growth. But if you quit because it feels uncomfortable, you'll never see what you were growing for. Comfort makes you quit early. It tells you that the pressure is too much, that the dream is too far, that the pain is not worth it. But if you look closely, the people who changed the world were the ones who stayed in the discomfort long enough to be transformed by it. They learned to walk through rejection, to endure waiting, to face fear and still move forward. Their greatness was not in what they avoided, but in what they overcame. Comfort says, don't take the risk. Purpose says, you were born for this. Comfort says, what if you fail? Purpose says, what if you fly? Comfort says, stay here where it's safe. Purpose says, step out and see how strong you really are. The choice is always yours. And every day you choose determines who you become tomorrow. Comfort may give you temporary ease, but purpose gives you eternal fulfillment. One feeds your body, the other feeds your soul. And every moment you spend chasing comfort is a moment you drift away from the life you were meant to live. Discomfort will visit you whether you choose it or not, but only those who embrace it willingly discover the power hidden within it. So many people are living their lives trapped inside an outdated version of themselves. They keep defending who they used to be, protecting habits, beliefs, and attitudes that once kept them safe but now keep them small. It's like trying to run new software on an old device. It freezes, it glitches, it can't handle what's next. You were not created to stay the same. Everything in life evolves. The seasons change, rivers shift, even stars die to be reborn as new light. So why do we insist on holding on to who we used to be when life keeps inviting us to become more? There was a time when that version of you served a purpose. Maybe you needed to be tough to survive. Maybe you learned to stay quiet to avoid rejection. Maybe you chose to play small so no one would expect too much from you. That old version of you was built out of necessity. It was a shield, a survival mode. But now that same armor is what's keeping you from growing. What once protected you is now limiting you. You can't walk into a new future while dragging the weight of an outdated identity. Imagine trying to drive forward while staring only in the rearview mirror. You'd crash. And yet, that's what most people do with their lives. They keep looking back, replaying old mistakes, defending old mindsets, clinging to old pain. They say things like, that's just who I am, or I've always been this way. But those are just excuses dressed as truth. You're not who you were. You're who you decide to become. Every morning gives you the permission to evolve, to upgrade, to outgrow what no longer fits. Look at nature. A snake sheds its skin, not because the old skin is ugly, but because it's too tight. If it doesn't shed, it dies. That's how growth works. If you don't let go of what no longer fits, you suffocate inside what used to feel comfortable. The process isn't pretty, it's uncomfortable, awkward, even painful. But it's necessary. You can't step into new beginnings while carrying expired versions of yourself. In daily life, you see people who talk about wanting change but resist transformation. They want the outcome of evolution without the discomfort of letting go. They want success but won't release their old habits of procrastination. They want love but won't release their old fears of rejection. They want peace but won't release their attachment to chaos. Growth always demands an exchange. You must give up who you were to become who you're meant to be. Think about a person who used to be shy and afraid of speaking up. For years, they avoided expressing themselves to stay safe from judgment. Then one day, they realized that their voice is the very tool they need to fulfill their purpose. But to use it, they must let go of the version of themselves that hides. They must stop defending their silence and start embracing their courage. That's the cost of evolution. Releasing what was once your comfort to embrace what is now your calling. Many people protect their past because it gives them identity. They keep telling the same stories about how they were hurt, betrayed, or abandoned. They use the past to explain why they can't move forward. But your past is not your prison. It's your classroom. The lessons you learned were never meant to chain you. They were meant to change you. You can't build a future while using the language of the past. Sometimes you hold on to the old you because it's familiar, and familiarity feels like safety. But safety is not always good. Sometimes the thing that feels safe is what's keeping you stuck. A bird feels safe inside its egg, but it must break the shell to live. That's how you grow, by breaking the shell of who you were. And yes, it's messy. Yes, it's uncertain. But if you stay in that shell too long, the very thing that once protected you becomes your coffin. You might say, but people know me as this person. If I change, they'll think I'm different. And that's exactly the point. Evolution makes you unrecognizable to those who only knew your old self. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to understand your growth. Some people only loved the version of you that made them comfortable. When you start evolving, you'll lose people opportunities and patterns that no longer align, not because you're being punished, but because you're being prepared. Think about the caterpillar. It doesn't die in the cocoon, it transforms. It willingly gives up crawling so it can learn to fly. It doesn't try to hold on to its old legs while growing wings. It surrenders to the process, trusting that something better is coming. That's what evolving means. Surrendering to the unknown with faith that your next version is greater than your last. In daily life, this looks like changing your routines, your circle, your mindset. Maybe it means waking up earlier, eating healthier, reading more, spending less time complaining. Maybe it means saying no to certain people, not because you hate them, but because you've realized peace is more valuable than approval. Maybe it means forgiving someone, not because they deserve it, but because your future deserves peace. Evolving doesn't always mean big moves. Sometimes it's small decisions repeated consistently that create a new version of you. You can't live a new life with an old identity. You can't walk in confidence while still calling yourself broken. You can't manifest abundance while still thinking from a place of scarcity. You can't expect new results while holding on to old excuses. You must let go of the language of limitation and start speaking the language of transformation. Say to yourself, I am no longer that person. I've learned, I've grown, I've healed, and I'm still becoming. Every stage of your life will demand a new version of you, and that new version will require you to release the outdated one. The problem is, most people want to grow, but don't want to lose the people, places, or mindsets attached to their old self. But growth is separation before elevation. You must detach from what was so you can rise into what is. So stop protecting old versions of yourself. Stop defending the habits that keep you small. Stop identifying with the pain that once defined you. It's time to allow yourself to evolve into the version you were always meant to be. The one with clarity in your eyes, peace in your heart, and purpose in your steps. The old you served its time, but the new you is ready to rise. So many people start with fire in their eyes, passion in their hearts, and dreams that burn bright like the morning sun. They make plans, set goals, promise themselves that this time will be different. They watch motivational videos, listen to speeches, feel inspired for a few hours, and then slowly that fire begins to fade. The excitement disappears, the energy drains, and they're left wondering what went wrong. What went wrong is simple. They depended on motivation to carry them when only discipline could. Motivation is the spark that starts the engine, but discipline is the fuel that keeps it running when the road gets hard. Motivation is a feeling. It's emotion-driven, unpredictable, temporary. It's easy to be motivated when life is easy, when the weather is perfect, when you're rested, when everything goes your way. Motivation is there. But what happens when it rains, when you're tired, when life punches you in the gut? That's when discipline walks in. Discipline doesn't need a perfect day. It just needs a decision. It doesn't ask, do I feel like it? It says, it's time to move. Motivation gives you desire. Discipline gives you consistency. And consistency is what separates dreamers from achievers. Think about a student preparing for exams. The first day they feel unstoppable. They buy new notebooks, highlight everything, stay up late studying. By the third day, the excitement fades. The mind gets tired, the body wants to rest, and the temptation to quit grows. Motivation would tell them, take a break, you'll do it tomorrow. But discipline says, sit down and study. Even if it's hard, even if you don't want to. And when the results come, it's not the memory of motivation that rewards them. It's the fruit of discipline. People wait for motivation like it's a bus that will take them to success. They say things like, I'm just not feeling it right now. Or I'll start when I'm in the right mindset. But those who succeed understand that feelings are unreliable. If you only act when you feel ready, you'll never do anything meaningful. Discipline is doing it even when you don't feel like it. It's showing up when your emotions are screaming no. It's getting up early when the bed feels like heaven. It's saying no to temporary comfort because you're focused on permanent results. Motivation burns out because it feeds on emotion, but discipline lasts because it feeds on commitment. When you rely only on motivation, your progress will always depend on your mood. When you build discipline, your progress becomes a habit. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop needing permission to move. You understand that every small step, every repeated effort, every quiet moment of persistence is part of the process that shapes greatness. Look at an athlete training before sunrise. Nobody's watching, no cameras, no applause. They train while the world sleeps, not because they feel motivated every day, but because they're disciplined. They know the competition will be won long before the crowd cheers. It's won in those lonely, unseen hours of effort. Discipline is silent power. It doesn't need noise. It doesn't chase attention. It simply builds results. In daily life, motivation might get you to start a diet, but discipline keeps you eating clean when no one's around. Motivation might get you to sign up for the gym, but discipline gets you there when it's raining outside. Motivation might help you start a business, but discipline keeps you grinding when the profits don't show. The truth is, motivation gets you in the game, but discipline keeps you in the fight. Discipline is built on promises you make to yourself and refuse to break. It's the quiet voice inside you that says, I'll keep going, even when the world says stop. Every time you keep that promise, you build trust with yourself, and that trust becomes strength. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack consistency. They confuse excitement for commitment, but excitement fades, commitment doesn't. Think of the farmer who plants seeds. He doesn't see results right away. Days turn to weeks, and nothing seems to grow. Motivation would tell him to stop watering. Discipline keeps him consistent, believing that something is happening beneath the soil. That's how progress works. Invisible at first, undeniable later. You don't see the reward every day, but discipline guarantees that one day you will. In your journey, there will be days when you feel unstoppable and days when you feel invisible. Days when you're proud and days when you question everything. Those are the days that define you, not the easy ones, but the difficult ones. Motivation may start your engine, but discipline is what drives you through the storm. It's easy to move when the path is smooth, but discipline keeps your feet steady when the ground is rough. Discipline is not punishment, it's self-respect. It's loving yourself enough to push yourself. It's saying, I deserve to see what happens if I don't give up. It's knowing that temporary discomfort is a small price for long-term fulfillment. People who rely on motivation live for the moment. People who master discipline live for the mission. Motivation asks, how do I feel? Discipline asks, what must be done? One reacts, the other acts. And action is what builds destiny. Think about your favorite artist, athlete, or leader. Behind their success are countless days of repetition, practice, sacrifice, and routine. They didn't wait for a good mood to move. They moved until their actions created momentum. And once momentum begins, discipline keeps it alive. That's why success always looks glamorous from the outside, but it's built on quiet, disciplined work behind the scenes. Motivation fades when obstacles come, but discipline grows stronger through them. It's like fire and steel. Motivation sparks the flame, but discipline forges the blade. Every act of consistency shapes your character, Every moment of persistence sharpens your focus. Every small victory repeated daily turns into unstoppable momentum. And when people ask you years later how you did it, they'll think it was inspiration, but you'll know it was discipline. You don't need people's approval to fulfill your purpose, because the moment you start living for applause, you stop living for purpose. Too many people are trapped in invisible prisons built from other people's opinions. They wake up each morning not asking, what do I want to build today? But rather, what will they think of me if I do this? That mindset is a thief. It steals your potential before you ever begin. You see, the reason most people never rise to their true level of greatness isn't because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they fear being misunderstood, rejected, or criticized. They fear losing acceptance more than they fear losing themselves. Think about it. How many dreams have died because someone laughed at them? How many people have buried their calling under layers of doubt because someone once said, that's not realistic? Every time you allow someone's opinion to define your direction, you trade your destiny for their comfort. You let their limitations become your boundaries. But purpose doesn't need permission. The truth is, when something inside you keeps calling, it means you've already been approved by a higher reason to exist. Your purpose was planted in you long before anyone had an opinion about it. People's approval is like the wind. It changes direction without warning. One moment they cheer for you, the next they question you. One day they call you brilliant, the next they call you crazy. If you anchor your worth to that wind, you'll be tossed around endlessly, never knowing who you really are. But when you root yourself in conviction, when you decide that your life will be led by principle and not popularity, you start walking with power. People who know where they're going don't stop to ask for directions from those who've never been there. Every successful person you admire had to walk through rejection. The artist who painted masterpieces was once told they had no talent. The entrepreneur who built an empire was once called foolish. The speaker who inspires millions was once told to keep quiet. If they had waited for approval, they would have waited forever. Greatness doesn't wait for permission. It moves even when it's misunderstood. People might doubt you, but their doubt doesn't change what's inside you. Imagine a seed buried in the soil. No one can see its potential. To them it looks dead, forgotten, covered in dirt. But that seed doesn't need applause to grow. It doesn't need anyone to notice it. It just needs to stay rooted, to push through the dark until it breaks into the light. That's you. You don't need everyone to see or understand your process. You just need to keep growing. People may not understand your silence, your discipline, your decisions, but they're not meant to. Your path was customized for your purpose, not for their approval. Some people will never clap for you because your progress reminds them of what they refuse to pursue. Don't take it personally. The moment you stop needing their validation, you start walking in true freedom. You'll begin to move differently, not from ego, but from clarity. When you know who you are and what you've been called to do, their approval becomes irrelevant. Your peace becomes your applause. Your progress becomes your proof. There's a story in every person who decided to keep moving despite being told to stop. Think about the student who was told they'd never amount to anything, yet they became a leader. Think about the young person who was mocked for their ideas, yet turned them into innovation that changed lives. Think about the one who was laughed at for dreaming too big, yet became the example others now follow. All of them had one thing in common. They stopped waiting for others to believe in them. They believed first, acted second, and inspired later. The world doesn't need more people who seek approval. It needs more people who live authentically. When you walk in your purpose, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror showing them what courage looks like. You remind them that it's okay to walk alone if it means walking in truth. Don't let rejection make you retreat. Let it refine you. Sometimes people's disapproval is proof that you're finally walking your own path. Life will test this lesson. There will be moments when you feel unseen, unappreciated, misunderstood. That's where most people quit. But you must remind yourself that purpose isn't a popularity contest. It's a personal calling. Don't let temporary silence make you forget the sound of your inner conviction. Approval fades, but purpose endures. The day you stop chasing validation is the day you step into power. Your dreams don't need likes. Your calling doesn't need comments. And your destiny doesn't need applause. All it needs is your decision. So Stop shrinking to fit into rooms that don't recognize your value. Stop explaining your vision to those who can't see it. Stop apologizing for being different. Your difference is your design. And as long as you're walking in your purpose, you're already approved. So many people confuse movement with progress. They wake up early, rush through traffic, chase deadlines, attend meetings, answer calls, reply to emails, and at the end of the day collapse into bed exhausted, yet unsatisfied. They say, I've been so busy, as if that automatically means they've been productive. But business is not progress. Effectiveness is. Being busy is about motion, but being effective is about meaning. One can run in circles all day and still end up in the same spot. Effectiveness is when every step you take is a step toward something that truly matters. Look around you. The world celebrates activity. We admire people who seem always in motion, always doing something, always occupied. But have you noticed how often that motion is hollow? It's like a hamster running on a wheel, moving fast but going nowhere. There's a difference between activity and achievement. One burns your energy, the other builds your destiny. Many people are stuck because they've mistaken effort for purpose. They believe that if they stay busy long enough, success will eventually find them. But life doesn't reward effort, it rewards direction. You can work hard in the wrong direction and still end up empty. Imagine climbing a tall ladder with all your strength, only to realize when you reach the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall. That's what business without purpose looks like. It's painful, frustrating, and deeply unfulfilling. We live in a time where people wear business like a badge of honor. They equate their worth with how packed their schedule is. But effectiveness is not about how much you do. It's about how much of what you do actually matters. It's not about filling your time. It's about fulfilling your purpose. The truth is, some of the busiest people on earth are the least effective, while some of the quietest are the most impactful. Because effectiveness isn't about doing more, it's about doing what counts. Think of the gardener who spends hours trimming the leaves, but never waters the roots. The plant may look neat for a while, but soon it withers. That's what happens when we focus on surface activity instead of deep alignment. Effectiveness begins when you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is this taking me closer to my purpose or just keeping me occupied? Sometimes you have to stop running to start seeing. Clarity comes in stillness, not in chaos. You can be busy chasing every opportunity, every trend, every idea, but if it's not aligned with your vision, it's just noise. Effectiveness means choosing what deserves your energy and learning to say no to what doesn't. It means realizing that your time is not infinite, so you can't afford to spend it everywhere. Successful people aren't those who do everything. They're those who do the right things consistently. They understand that focus is the currency of progress. Think about it. When you light a magnifying glass under the sun and hold it still, it can start a fire. But if you keep moving it around, nothing happens. The same principle applies to life. Scattered focus produces scattered results. When you direct your energy toward one clear purpose, that's when your life starts to ignite with meaning. Many of us are busy out of fear. Fear of stillness, fear of failure, fear of being left behind. We fill our days with noise so we don't have to face ourselves. But sometimes the most productive thing you can do is pause. To think, to reflect, to realign. Slowing down doesn't mean you're losing time. It means you're regaining control. Effectiveness requires evaluation. You can't improve what you don't examine. You've got to ask yourself hard questions. What am I chasing? Why am I chasing it? Is it really worth my time? Or am I just afraid of being still? The moment you start questioning your business, you start stepping into wisdom. Because when you understand that not everything deserves your attention, you begin to protect your purpose. Life is not about how fast you go, but about how far you go in the right direction. Being effective means prioritizing impact over impression. You might not always look busy, but you'll always move with intention. Every great achiever, every visionary, every world changer learned this truth early. Success is not about doing everything. It's about mastering what truly matters. Consider the difference between a flood and a river. Both involve a lot of water, but a flood destroys everything in its path because it has no direction, while a river gives life wherever it flows because it has boundaries and focus. That's the power of effectiveness. Direction gives purpose to motion. When your actions flow with intention, your life begins to nourish, not exhaust. People often say, I don't have time. But the truth is, time is not lacking. Focus is. It's not that we don't have hours. It's that we waste them. Being busy gives you the illusion of progress. Effectiveness gives you the fruit of it. If your calendar is full but your heart is empty, you're not progressing. You're just performing. The real challenge is learning to distinguish between what's urgent and what's important. Urgent things scream for your attention. Important things quietly shape your destiny. The world rewards busyness, but your soul rewards effectiveness. You were not created to run endlessly without direction. You were created to build, to impact, to evolve. So slow down, not to quit, but to align, not to escape, but to evaluate. Find out what truly moves you forward and pour yourself into that. Because when your energy and purpose move in the same direction, that's when progress becomes inevitable. That's when every effort counts, every moment matters, and every step becomes a building block to life you were meant to live. Your life follows the direction of your thoughts, and that truth is both powerful and dangerous. Because if your thoughts are small, your life becomes small. If your thoughts are fearful, your life becomes limited. But if your thoughts are expansive, bold, and filled with vision, your life begins to stretch beyond what you once believed was possible. Everything you see around you, every invention, every movement, every dream turned reality, began first as a thought. Thought is the seed of destiny. What you continually think about, you eventually walk toward. Think about how a river always follows its channel. Your life flows in the same way. Your thoughts are the riverbed shaping the current of your future. Most people spend their days blaming their circumstances, their past, or their environment, without realizing that the real battlefield is in the mind. If you think limitation, you live limitation. If you think growth, you live expansion. Nothing changes on the outside until you change what's happening inside. Consider this: a person who constantly says, "I can't," has already built invisible walls around themselves. Those words become mental fences that keep them from ever exploring what's possible. And it's not because life denied them. It's because they denied themselves through thought. Another person with the same background, same struggles, same pain, but a different mindset can rise, can overcome, can transform. What made the difference? Thought. What they allowed to live in their mind became what they lived in their reality. Your thoughts are like the steering wheel of your life. Every direction you take begins first in the mind. If your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, fear, and excuses, your journey will reflect that chaos. But when your thoughts are filled with belief, clarity, and determination, your path becomes stable. Even through storms, your mind is the pilot of your life, and wherever your focus goes, your future follows. You can't think defeat all day and expect victory to show up. You can't think weakness and expect strength to manifest. You can't keep repeating stories of failure in your head and expect success to feel at home in your life. Life responds to the mental picture you hold most consistently. The world outside is simply a mirror reflecting the world inside you. There's a man who once worked in a factory, doing the same task every day for years. He believed that was all he was capable of. But one day he started to dream, not out loud, but in his mind. He started to imagine himself as a creator, an innovator. Every day while working, he would think, "I am more than this. I can create something of my own." Those thoughts didn't change his situation overnight, but they changed him. They shifted his energy, his confidence, his actions. Eventually, that same man started a small business on the side. Years later, he was leading hundreds of employees. His circumstances changed because his thinking changed first. Your thoughts are like seeds. Whatever you plant, that's what grows. Plant worry, and you'll harvest anxiety. Plant faith, and you'll harvest courage. The soil doesn't argue with the seed you give it. It just produces more of what you planted. The mind works the same way. It will multiply whatever you feed it, whether it's negative or positive. The question is, what are you feeding it daily? What conversations are you having with yourself when no one else is listening? Every day, life gives you thousands of moments to decide what kind of thoughts you'll entertain. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you can either choose frustration or patience. Someone rejects your idea, and you can choose self-doubt or resilience. In each moment, your choice of thought determines the direction of your emotional state and ultimately your destiny. You are not a victim of your thoughts. You are their creator. When you wake up each morning and fill your mind with gratitude, goals, and vision, you start programming your day for alignment and success. But when you fill it with fear, comparison, and complaints, You sabotage your day before it even begins. The most successful people are not the ones who never face challenges. They're the ones who've mastered their inner dialogue. They talk to themselves differently. They tell themselves, I can, even when it looks impossible. They remind themselves of their power when everything seems uncertain. Think about a pilot flying a plane through a storm. The clouds might be thick, the turbulence might be rough, but the pilot doesn't panic. They keep their eyes on the instruments, on the direction. That's what your thoughts are, your instruments. If you let fear control them, you'll lose balance. But if you keep your mental focus steady, you'll eventually rise above the storm. No matter how dark the clouds look, above them, the sun is still shining. Your thoughts determine whether you stay in the turbulence or rise above it. Many people wait for circumstances to change before they change their thinking, but it works the other way around. You must change your thinking first, and then your circumstances will follow. Life mirrors your mindset. If you think abundance, opportunities start appearing. If you think growth, doors begin to open. It's not magic, it's alignment. Your mind sends signals to your behavior creates action, and your actions produce results. When you think empowering thoughts, you start to move differently. You walk with confidence, you speak with conviction, you attract people who resonate with that energy. Your life begins to reorganize itself around the quality of your mindset. That's why protecting your thoughts is one of the most important disciplines in life. Don't let negativity camp in your mind rent-free. Don't let fear narrate your story. Don't let past pain write your future script. Your thoughts are powerful to be wasted on doubt. Remember this, the person you are today is the result of the thoughts you accepted yesterday. And the person you'll become tomorrow depends on the thoughts you choose today. If you want to change your life, start by changing what you believe is possible. Because the mind is the workshop of destiny, and every masterpiece begins as a single thought that refused to die. Starting over is not weakness, it's wisdom. People often believe that beginning again means they've failed, that starting from zero is proof that something went wrong. But in truth, it's one of the most powerful acts of courage a human being can perform. Because it takes real strength to look at something you've built, something you've invested time, emotion, and effort into, and say, this no longer serves my growth. It takes humility to admit that what once worked may no longer work. And it takes faith to believe that the next chapter will be better than the one you're leaving behind. So many people stay stuck because they're afraid to start over. They stay in relationships that drain them, jobs that suffocate them, habits that limit them, not because they're happy, but because they're scared of the unknown. They think, what if I fail again? But the real question is, what if you rise this time? Starting over doesn't erase your past, it refines your wisdom. It's not about losing everything, it's about letting go of what no longer fits the person you're becoming. Imagine a tree shedding its leaves in autumn. At first glance, it looks like loss. Branches stripped bare, the once green canopy gone. But in reality, it's a preparation for renewal. The tree isn't dying, it's resetting. It knows that in order to bloom again, it must release what once served its purpose. That's what starting over does for you. It clears the clutter so your growth has room to breathe. You see, life is a series of seasons. Some seasons are for building, others are for breaking. Some are for sowing, others for harvesting. And then there are seasons where life asks you to start again, not because you failed, but because you've learned everything you were meant to learn from that chapter. Wisdom is knowing when to hold on and when to let go. It's knowing that sometimes walking away isn't quitting, it's evolving. Think about the inventor who spent years creating a prototype that didn't work. Most people would have given up, labeled it a waste of time. But he saw every failure as feedback. Each restart brought him closer to success. Starting over wasn't weakness for him, it was part of the process. Every great achiever has had to rebuild from scratch at some point. Every visionary has had to let go of something that once defined them in order to step into something that would redefine them. We live in a world that glorifies consistency but misunderstands it. Being consistent doesn't mean you never change direction. It means you remain committed to growth, even if that means rerouting your journey. Sometimes the path you're on stops leading to the future you desire. Starting over doesn't mean the journey ends. It means the journey evolves. It's the art of carrying your lessons forward while leaving your baggage behind. Think of a sculptor working on a piece of marble. After days of carving, they might realize that one wrong cut has changed the entire shape. A lesser artist would throw the marble away. But a true master begins again, not from defeat, but from insight. The new form might end up more beautiful than the original idea. That's how life works. Every restart refines you. Every new beginning sharpens your perspective. And people fear starting over because they think it's too late. They say, I've invested too much time. But time wasted on the wrong thing doesn't become valuable just because it's long. It's better to begin again with clarity than to stay trapped in comfort. Age doesn't limit your ability to restart. Mindset does. There are people who reinvented themselves in their 40s, 50s, even 70s and became legends. The moment you decide to start again, you're no longer behind. You're ahead of who you used to be. Starting over teaches you resilience. It teaches you that your worth is not tied to what you built, but to who you are. When you start again, you carry your experience, your lessons, your strength. You're not beginning from zero. You're beginning from wisdom, and that makes all the difference. The first time you fell, it hurt because you didn't know how to rise. But now, you've got the muscle memory of endurance. Every time life knocks you down, you rise faster, stronger, wiser. There's a quiet beauty in starting over. It's the moment you choose yourself again. It's when you say, I deserve peace more than approval. It's when you stop chasing validation and start chasing fulfillment. It's when you stop asking, what will people think? And start asking, what will happen to my soul if I stay here? That's not weakness, that's wisdom in motion. Life will sometimes strip you down to nothing so that you can rebuild without the lies you once believed about yourself. It will test your patience, your faith, and your resilience. But each time you start again, you discover a deeper version of yourself. One that's no longer defined by mistakes, but by meaning. You begin to realize that endings are not punishments. They're invitations to transformation. The butterfly doesn't mourn the caterpillar it once was. It doesn't look back at the cocoon and call it a failure. It understands that in order to fly, it had to leave the ground behind. That's the wisdom of starting over. It's understanding that letting go of one form doesn't mean you've lost. It means you're becoming something greater. So when life demands you to start again, don't shrink in fear. Look at it as a sacred reset. Every fresh start is a chance to align your actions with your evolution, your choices with your truth. You're not the same person who began last time. You're wiser, stronger, more aware. Every new beginning carries the fingerprints of your growth. And every restart is proof that you still believe there's more to become. Don't confuse waiting with timing. Move with faith. Too many people get stuck in life because they're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect condition, the perfect signal from life before they move. They say, I'll start when things feel right, or I'll act when the time is better. But what they don't realize is that there's no such thing as a perfect time. Life doesn't hand you a flawless season where everything aligns. Sometimes you have to take the first step before the path even appears. Faith is not waiting for certainty. It's moving even when clarity hasn't arrived yet. Some people use waiting as wisdom, but others use it as an excuse. They say they're waiting for the right opportunity, but what they're really doing is protecting themselves from fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. But you can't grow in safety. Comfort zones are beautiful prisons. The longer you wait for everything to make sense, the more opportunities pass you by. The truth is, timing isn't something you wait for. It's something you create by moving. Think about how a ship moves. It can't steer while standing still. The rudder only works when the ship is in motion. Life is the same. Direction becomes clearer when you start moving. Too many people are praying for guidance but refusing to take a step. They want the full map before they begin. But that's not how destiny works. You get the first step, and once you take it, the next one reveals itself. Waiting can sometimes disguise itself as patience, but patience doesn't mean doing nothing. Patience is preparing while you wait. It's staying ready so that when the door opens, you can walk through it without hesitation. People who confuse waiting with timing often think they're being wise. But in reality, they're letting fear disguise itself as caution. There's a difference between divine timing and self-imposed delay. Divine timing is when life prepares you for what's ahead. Delay is when you prepare excuses for why you haven't moved yet. Think of the farmer. After planting seeds, he waits for the rain. But while he waits, he doesn't sit idle. He tends the soil, removes the weeds, and protects the field. That's how you wait with purpose. That's how faith works. It's not passive, it's active. It's doing your part even when you don't see results yet. Many people are waiting for the harvest without ever planting the seed. They're waiting for signs instead of sowing effort. You can't reap what you haven't planted, and you can't grow while standing still. Look at daily life. How many dreams are buried under the phrase, "I'm waiting for the right time"? Someone wants to start a business but says they'll wait until they have more money. Another wants to write a book but says they'll start when they have more time. Someone else wants to change careers but says they'll wait until things settle down. The irony is things rarely settle down. The right moment never comes wrapped in certainty. You create the right moment by deciding that now is enough. Faith is not a feeling of assurance. It's a decision to move even when assurance is missing. It's like standing in a dark hallway and still taking a step forward because you trust that the floor will be there. If you wait until you can see the entire staircase, you'll spend your life standing on the first step. People who achieve greatness are not those who waited for signs. They are those who became the sign. They moved first, and the universe moved with them. There's a story of a man who stood by a river, waiting for the water to stop flowing so he could cross safely. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, but the river never stopped. It kept flowing. One day, an old traveler passed by, looked at him, and said, "The river was never meant to stop. It was meant to be crossed." That's life. It doesn't pause for your comfort. It keeps flowing. You're meant to move with faith, not wait for fear to disappear. People often confuse waiting for timing when what they really need is trust. They say, "I'll move when I feel ready." But readiness doesn't come before action. It comes through action. Confidence isn't born in silence, it's built in movement. You can't think your way into courage. You have to act your way into it. Every person you admire once stood where you are. Unsure, uncertain, unprepared. But they moved anyway. They didn't wait for perfect timing, they created it. The right moment didn't find them. They built it through decision and discipline. Every great story begins with someone who decided to start when it still felt too early. Because faith doesn't ask for proof. It creates proof through movement. Think about nature. The bird doesn't wait for the wind to blow perfectly before it takes off. It just spreads its wings and trusts the air to catch it. The seed doesn't wait for perfect sunlight to break through the soil. It pushes upward, trusting that the light will meet it halfway. That's what moving with faith looks like. It's choosing to rise even when you can't yet see the sun. The reason so many people stay stuck is because they want to understand everything before they move. But if you already understood everything, it wouldn't be faith, it would be control. And control kills growth. Sometimes you have to step into uncertainty and trust that life will meet you with direction. Sometimes the only way to know if it's time is to move and find out. Faith is motion with meaning. It's trusting that your steps have purpose even when your path isn't visible. It's saying, "I may not know how, but I know why." When you have a strong why, timing becomes less important because faith doesn't wait for the weather to change. It learns how to dance in the rain. The longer you wait for perfect conditions, the longer you delay your own evolution. Movement brings momentum, and momentum brings miracles. So when life whispers, move, don't hesitate. Timing is not about perfection, it's about readiness of the heart. Sometimes faith is just taking one small step and believing that everything else will unfold as it should. The door won't open until you walk toward it. The opportunity won't appear until you make space for it. You don't need to see the whole picture to start painting. You just need to pick up the brush and trust that every stroke has purpose. The moment you decide, your freedom begins. That single moment, that one heartbeat where you finally say, "Enough," changes everything. It's not about the world changing, it's about you changing inside. It's about taking back the pen that writes your story. Most people spend years waiting for someone to rescue them, waiting for the right moment, waiting for permission to live. But freedom doesn't come from waiting. It begins the second you make a decision. A decision to stop being a prisoner of your fears, your excuses, your past. When you decide, truly decide, something inside you breaks open. A fire, a sense of clarity, a boldness that you didn't even know existed. Think about how powerful a decision really is. It's invisible, yet it reshapes your entire life. One decision can end years of hesitation. One decision can pull you out of depression, out of toxic habits, out of self-doubt. A decision is not made with your mind alone. It's made with your soul. It's when your spirit finally screams, I'm done living this way. It's when you realize no one is coming to fix it for you. Not your parents, not your friends, not society. The rescue you're waiting for is you. That's where freedom begins. When you stop waiting and start choosing. Look at your daily life. How many times have you known what to do but kept delaying it? You know the job doesn't fulfill you, but you stay because it's comfortable. You know the relationship drains you, but you stay because it's familiar. You know your habits are killing your potential, but you keep saying, I'll change next week. You keep waiting for courage, not realizing courage only shows up after you decide. You don't feel ready before making the decision. You feel ready because you made it. That's the secret. Freedom doesn't mean everything becomes easy. It means you finally take control. Think of the person who wakes up one day and decides to start a business with nothing but a vision and faith. People call them crazy, but they call themselves free. Or the woman who decides to leave behind everything toxic and start over from zero. Everyone pities her, but she feels lighter than ever. The chains don't fall when conditions are perfect. They fall when you decide to break them. Remember this, your life right now is a reflection of your past decisions or your lack of them. Indecision is also a decision, and it costs more than failure ever will. Failure teaches you, strengthens you, grows you. Indecision keeps you stuck in the same place, living the same day over and over again. Many people are not tired of life. They are tired of living without decisions. Every morning you wake up with two choices: repeat yesterday or rewrite it. The moment you decide to rewrite it, that's when you truly start to live. Think about how a bird learns to fly. There's always that moment when it's standing at the edge of the nest, heart pounding, wings trembling. It looks down and sees the ground far below. Fear whispers, what if you fall? But instinct whispers louder, what if you fly? The moment the bird jumps, freedom begins. It's not when it flaps its wings, it's when it decides to jump. Your life works the same way. You don't discover your wings until you decide to leap. Every breakthrough you've ever heard about started with a decision. Thomas Edison decided he would not stop until the light bulb worked. Oprah decided she would not let her past define her future. Nelson Mandela decided that his soul would remain free even while his body was imprisoned. These people didn't wait for freedom. They decided they were already free. Freedom starts in the mind long before it reaches the world outside. You might be thinking, but what if I make the wrong decision? Here's the truth. Even a wrong decision is better than no decision. A wrong decision can be corrected, redirected, and transformed into wisdom. But indecision only breeds regret. And regret is the heaviest chain a person can wear. No one ever looks back and says, I'm proud I waited so long to start. They look back and wish they had decided sooner. Freedom doesn't come when everything aligns. It comes when you align yourself with purpose. It's the moment you stop living for approval and start living from conviction. Every person who has ever risen from darkness made one defining choice: to rise. To refuse to be defined by what happened to them. To decide that pain would no longer be their home. Decision is the doorway between who you are and who you're meant to become. Think of someone standing before a door, holding the key in their hand, but refusing to unlock it because they're afraid of what's on the other side. That's what most people do with life. The key is decision, but fear keeps their hand frozen. The longer they wait, the heavier the key feels. But the second they turn it, light rushes in. That's what it feels like when you finally decide. Light floods your mind, and suddenly what once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. You'll notice that once you decide, things start aligning. Opportunities you never saw before appear. People who doubted you fade away, and people who believe in you show up. It's almost as if the universe waits for your yes before it starts moving. The moment you decide, send out a signal, a vibration that says, I'm ready. And everything that belongs to that decision begins to find its way to you. Freedom is not about escaping life. It's about engaging with it fully. It's not about avoiding pain. It's about owning your power. When you decide, you stop being a victim of circumstances and become a creator of destiny. And that power, once awakened, can never be silenced again. Every day gives you another chance to decide differently. Decide to forgive instead of holding grudges. Decide to move forward instead of overthinking. Decide to love yourself instead of criticizing your every flaw. The moment you decide, you change direction. And when direction changes, destiny changes. Think of that moment when someone decides to change their lifestyle, to get healthy, to build discipline, to stop procrastinating. At first, it feels small. It doesn't look like freedom. But a few weeks later, they're walking taller, thinking clearer, feeling lighter. That's what freedom feels like, not instant, but real. Decision is your declaration of independence from everything that has held you back. It's when you say, I may not know what's ahead, but I know what I'm leaving behind. You leave behind out hesitation, fear, and you step into growth, courage, and purpose. That's the power of one decision. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. So the moment you decide, your freedom begins. It's not somewhere in the distance. It's not waiting for permission. It's already inside you, waiting for your choice to release it. Because every great transformation, every miracle, every story of victory begins not with chance, but with choice. And choice is the greatest freedom you will ever have. There comes a moment in every person's life when silence becomes too heavy to carry, when excuses no longer make sense, and when the pain of staying the same finally becomes greater than the fear of change. That moment is sacred because it's the moment your soul whispers, enough. It's the moment the real you begins to rise. You've spent too long standing at the edge of your own potential, too long waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect peace. But life was never meant to be perfect, it was meant to be lived. And freedom, real freedom, begins when you decide to live fully, not cautiously. You have walked through storms that tried to drown you, yet here you are, still standing. You've been knocked down by rejection, by disappointment, by doubt, but your heart still beats because purpose refuses to die inside you. There's something in you that the world needs, something no one else can give. But the world can't see it until you decide to release it. No one is coming to unlock your greatness. You are the key. Your potential is not hiding, it's waiting for your permission. Listen to me, life doesn't reward those who wish, it rewards those who act. Every dream that's ever come true began as a decision. Every person who rose from nothing began with a moment of courage. And courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the choice to move despite it. You might be scared, but do it scared. You might not be ready, but do it anyway. Because waiting for confidence is the fastest way to waste your calling. Confidence doesn't come before action, it's born through it. One day, you'll look back on this season of your life and realize it wasn't meant to break you, it was meant to build you. Those closed doors weren't rejection, they were direction. Those delays weren't punishment, they were preparation. Because life will always test your patience before it reveals your purpose. But you must keep moving. Progress doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, just one more step. Every legend you've ever admired started exactly where you are, uncertain, afraid, and unqualified. But they made one powerful choice. They decided not to quit. They decided to fight through the fog. They decided that purpose was worth the pain. It's not talent that separates the great from the ordinary. It's persistence. It's the refusal to stay stuck. As long as you keep moving forward, even if it's inch by inch, you are winning. Because the slowest step forward is still faster than standing still. You were not born to live on repeat. You were not created to survive the same year 100 times and call it a life. You were created to grow, to evolve, to rise, to lead. And the beautiful truth is, it's never too late to begin again. You are not behind, you're just being refined. Every delay is divine alignment in disguise. Sometimes the reason you're stuck is because you're being prepared for something greater than you can see. You have to start speaking differently to yourself. Stop saying, I can't, and start saying, I will. Stop saying someday and start saying today. Words create worlds, and the way you talk to yourself determines the reality you live in. Remind yourself daily that you are capable, that you are chosen, that you are destined for more. Don't wait for others to believe in you. Believe in yourself loud enough that it silences their doubt. You will face moments when the world feels heavy and your dreams feel distant. You will have nights when tears feel like your only language. But in those moments, remember this: diamonds are born in pressure, not comfort. Your pain is proof that something powerful is forming inside you. Keep going. Keep believing. Because the very thing that tried to break you will one day be the reason you shine. You must understand, Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. It's about smiling through the struggle, trusting the process, and knowing that even when you can't see the path, purpose still knows where to find you. Sometimes the most powerful prayer you can make is, I don't know what's next, but I'm ready. That's when life begins to shift. Don't let fear talk you out of your future. Fear is a liar dressed in logic. It will convince you to play small, to settle, to stay where it's safe. But safety is just another word for stagnation. There is no growth in comfort, and there is no purpose in playing small. You have one life. Don't waste it being trapped by what ifs. Don't wait for approval to become extraordinary. Ordinary is crowded. Dare to be different. Remember this. The cage is open, but you're still sitting inside because you think you're locked. The truth is, the door was never closed. The only thing stopping you is the story you keep telling yourself. Change your story and you change your life. Stop saying, I'm not enough. Stop saying, I don't have time. Stop saying, maybe next year. Next year won't change until you do. The power to rewrite your future has always been in your hands. So rise. Rise from your excuses. Rise from your failures. Rise from your fear. Stand tall in the middle of uncertainty and declare, this is not where my story ends. The past may have shaped you, but it does not define you. The pain may have wounded you, but it does not own you. You are not your mistakes. You are your decisions after them. And today you have the power to decide again. Life is waiting on you. Your dreams are waiting on you. Destiny is waiting on you. You don't need a miracle to begin. You are the miracle. You don't need all the answers, just the courage to take the first step. Because when you move, life moves with you. When you decide, doors begin to open. When you commit, the universe begins to conspire in your favor. So don't look back. Don't wait for another sign. This is your moment. This is your reminder that being stuck is not your identity. It's just a season. And seasons change the moment you decide to change. So rise up, breathe deeply, and step forward with conviction. Because everything you've ever prayed for, dreamed of, and hoped for is waiting just beyond your hesitation. And when you finally get there, when you finally look back and realize how far you've come, you'll smile, not because it was easy, but because you made it. Because you decided, because you refused to quit, because you proved that no matter how dark it gets, no matter how long it takes, no matter who doubts you, the human spirit, once awakened, cannot be stopped. And that right there is why you will never be stuck again.